So this time of Navratri is a very wonderful time to tune in to God in the aspect of Divine Mother. And anytime there's a spiritual celebration or holy period, I've seen, and the masters talked about this to some extent, maybe in a different way, but there's a little bit of the veil is lifted a little bit to God as Krishna or Christ during those times. And this is a time to really try to understand and tune in more deeply to what she is trying to give us, which is more than just an outward worship and ritual. It's much more than that. You know, near the end of his life, Master Yogananda, not even near the end, his brother told him that in the last maybe 20 years of his life, Yogananda, who loved worshiping Divine Mother as Kali and would go to Dakshineshwar and other places where there was a Kali temple, that he stopped worshiping murtis, and he didn't have a murti anymore that he would worship. And you remember, even as a child, his friends came to him one day and said, "Oh, we found a new Kali temple. You must come to us and worship in this temple." And he just said, "No, I'll stay home and worship." And they were surprised. And that night he was meditating and he had a vision of God as Kali, as Divine Mother. She came to him in the deepest way, in the most inspired way. And yet worshiping God in form is also helpful. So it's not one or the other. But the way Swami Kriyananda put it, he said that when you go to a temple, and this is what he taught us by his own example and in other ways, when you go to a temple and worship at the temple and bow down to the murti, remember that these different outward forms of God and of Divine Mother, they're really a window into the infinite aspect of Divine Mother, and in very specific ways. And so, you know, I find it helpful to worship these different aspects and forms at times of Divine Mother when I'm trying to understand and I need to develop a certain quality. You know, and so Chandi and Durga have this very strong, powerful defeating our enemies, and in this case, enemies of delusion and those things that are trying to keep us from God. And different aspects of Divine Mother give us different, almost like facets or windows into some side of Divine Mother. You know, Yogananda taught that there are 8 aspects of God: peace, as I mentioned, peace, calmness, love, joy, energy or power, light, sound, and that's it. If I'm sitting down by myself, I can just run them off. But anyways, she is all of those. Come out of the darkness, Mother, bathe me in thy light. She is light. She is sound. She literally is the sound of Om that came from the impersonal aspect of God. I find it very helpful to understand it in that way. That one, you know, Yogananda talked a lot about this, and you know, I don't have time to get into all of it, but it's a lot of what Yogananda said is on this website that I created, thecosmicmother.org. And he talks about Divine Mother as Om. She is Om. Kali is Om. He equated the two as one. And the teachings tell us that there was God beyond creation, the Heavenly Father, impersonal aspect of God. And then there was vibration that emanated from this impersonal aspect, and it was the vibration of Om. And it's that Om vibration that created the universe. And that Om vibration is Divine Mother. The Mother is creation herself. She creates the child in a way, you know, in a physical way, but it represents and shows that it's Divine Mother not just created this universe, is the way Yogananda put it and Swamiji put it, but she became this universe. And so she is this universe. She is everything we see. She is all of nature. She's also all of us. We are part of her creation, and she became us too, which is I find it helpful to kind of get my mind around that at times and to meditate on this idea that she became this universe, and that includes all of us. And so to tune into her power and the divinity of God within ourselves rather than outside of ourselves. And this is a very helpful way of really, this is how we merge. You know, we're already merged with God. It's, you know, we're trying to merge. I'm trying to merge into God. And we already are merged. This is where Master, he defined self-realization as knowing in all parts of body, mind, and soul that I am now in possession of the kingdom of God. I need not pray that it come to me, for God's omnipresence is my omnipresence. All I need is to improve my knowing. And so that's all we need. We're already merged with God, we just don't know it. And so when we meditate with that awareness and understanding that we are already one with the creation, with the Creator, it's a very helpful way to meditate. Try this when we meditate. Yes, we pray to God, we pray to Divine Mother, and to the Gurus, and we say the prayers. But when we meditate, Swamiji would say, meditate in God, pray in God, because we are in God, and God is in us. And this is an intuitive thing. It's not words, and it's not even a visualization. It's more a feeling of when we meditate, feel that we are part of Divine Mother's creation. We are in it. She is in it. We are her in a way. And I find this a very helpful way to kind of understand and tune in to my own divinity, because that's the reality. The delusion is that we are not one with God. The reality is that we are, and we just need to improve our knowing. Yogananda related to God as Divine Mother, so does Swami Kriyananda, and I'll read something that he said about that. It's interesting, the very first song he wrote when he began writing songs, 350 songs ago, or is that how many songs he wrote?
Yeah,
400. The very first song he wrote was to Divine Mother, when he just had the idea of starting to write music. The very last song he wrote at the very end of his life was to Divine Mother. The last chapter in his autobiography is to Divine Mother. He was a child of Divine Mother. That's how he worshipped God. He said that when he talked about God, he would refer to God as God. But for him, when he related to God, it was always as the Divine Mother. And Yogananda did too. And what Master said is that the mother is closer than the father as far as our relating to the divine. And that God gave us all these human relationships to show us how to have a divine relationship. And human relationships, some sort of Gyan yogis say, oh, it's all delusion and we must renounce all human relationships, which to some extent may be true for some people. But if we renounce the human love that was given in our hearts by God, then in a way, we sort of cut off the flow and the opening, sort of the window to understand divine love. And God gave us human love to help us to understand divine love. But it also can be a trap if we just get caught in the human aspect of it, because it's very limiting. And so try to see even human love as a window to the divine, just as we see these forms that we worship as a window to the divine. And if we can see everything as a window to the divine, then everything, everywhere we go, it becomes a window to God, to the Divine Mother. And so this is what Swamiji said about that. Thus, it isn't that the Lord wants you to deny your human nature. What he wants rather is for you to purify it, to expand whatever love you feel in your heart, and not to keep it locked up in ego attachments. For the devotee, it is natural, therefore, to worship God in some human aspect, as his Divine Mother, for example, or as his Heavenly Father. I myself worship the Mother aspect especially, for the Mother is closer than the Father. The Father aspect of God represents that part which is aloof from his creation. The Mother is creation itself. Even among mankind, the human father is more disposed than the mother to judge their erring children. The mother always forgives. Pray then to the Divine Mother. Talk to her like a child. Divine Mother, not to your good, I am your own. You must release me from this delusion. The mother ever responds with compassion when the devotee prays to her sincerely in this way. And the mother, even in a cosmic way, is closer than the father because the mother is the creation. She's right here. The mother created this delusion. She understands how hard it is for us to kind of overcome her delusion. This is why Yogananda ji said, when you pray to Divine Mother, blame her for your faults. And just because she created faults, she created us, she created the potential to stumble and get caught up in desire and attachment. And that's why he said, blame her for your faults, because it's her fault. She messed up in creating this. And he said, you want to pray to her, he said, thou hast created me against thy will. Free me. That is my prayer. And he shouted it out just like that, even more strongly. He said, pray like that, because that's what happened. Yeah, we found ourselves here, and she didn't give us much training. She just threw us out here. She created us against our will, and now we're kind of stuck here, and we're trying to get out. But she wants to help us get out, is the thing. And the Father, he's kind of aloof from it all. He's kind of, oh, this delusion, she created it, I didn't. So you go to her if you have a problem with that, whatever. He's very abstract, and I'm sort of making fun of it, but there's an abstract, just passionate quality of the Father aspect of God. And there's an understanding, compassionate aspect of God as the Divine Mother. So that's the window that Yogananda taught us to go through to find freedom. And it does take that. It does take using our own human understanding of the Mother and starting there and not ending there. And it takes, and I'll talk a little bit more later about this, of working with the feeling energy of our own hearts that was implanted there by God. That was, even emotions. I mean, we yogis, I think, sometimes, and I talk about this in the Kriya Yoga book. There's 2 chapters in the Kriya Yoga book, one about turning human love into divine love, and the other one about awakening that fire of devotion in our hearts. And even human emotions, human feeling, that comes from God too. That came from Divine Mother. It was planted in our hearts. And it's the great delusion in a way. That's really where delusion is on the agitated feeling level. And so I think too many yogis think, oh God, feeling, I hate feelings. I just get away from me. I get too emotional, and that's where I get upset, and that's where I get trapped in delusion. But that's not the way, is to push it out of the way and to just suppress and put a wet, cold blanket over the feeling energy. The way is to tune in more deeply to that energy, understand that it came from Divine Mother, and that it's agitated feeling only, and that it's emotional feeling, and that our job is to use that as a breadcrumb trail to go back to God. And that means taking it deep into meditation and going deep within, and to take these truths into meditation. And it's the same with the Murti and the images of Divine Mother. That beautiful chant I enjoy so much of Master's, where he chants, and it's a chant he wrote about Divine Mother as Kali, who tells me thou art dark, O my Mother Divine, thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. And, as a Bengali and as a child of Kali, he was talking about Kali, this dark form. And basically that chant is, who says, is what he's saying. Who says, S-E-Z, is just this very way of saying, who says you're stuck and limited in that form? You're the entire universe, thousands of suns, thousands of moons. And so when we pray to Divine Mother, start, and it helps. I mean, some of you, I understand, went to Chandi Mandir yesterday. I love going to these places of Divine Mother. And Swami Kriyananda did too. He loved going to places, especially where Divine Mother appeared to people. He went to some of the places in the West where the Divine Mother, Virgin Mary, appeared to children, which is a very common thing in the West, where miracles happen, and beautiful stories of the Virgin Mary appearing to these children and performing miracles, and it's very well known. And he, in his life, went to some of these places, and was wanting to go to more even near the end of his life, just to experience the taste of where Divine Mother came to this earth in a very powerful way. And just that presence is felt in those places. And at these murtis and these places where people have been worshiping Divine Mother. And then Swamiji taught, when you go to a place where there's a temple or a murti, he said worship and pray and then go sit and meditate nearby. And sometimes it's hard to find a quiet place nearby, but take it within and really tune in. And I've had wonderful experiences in some of the Indian temples of experiencing that, and even in some of the places in the West, some of the cathedrals and such where Divine Mother is worshipped. And so we do need to use these windows in a very conscious way of learning how to tune in to God as Divine Mother. Now, we can also tune into these different aspects of Divine Mother. Again, come out of the darkness, bathe me in thy light. Swamiji wrote another chant where he says, how shall I love thee, Lord my God? No, it's this other one. It's, that chant to Divine Mother. When I awake, I'll see thy face. I knew you would remember. I'll see thy light. When I awake, I'll end all fear. When I awake, I'll know thy love. And if you're experiencing fear, what is the antidote to fear? It's love. It's so interesting that a lot of people are now understanding that love is actually the antidote to fear. It's not, courage also is, but where does courage come from? When someone has a lot of courage, what do you say? They have a lot of heart, because it's the love of the heart when it really wakes up. It gives us courage and strength. I share in the Kriya Yoga book about Bhim in the Mahabharata of the Pandavas, where he was Swami Master said that Bhim represents the heart chakra. And he also was the most emotional. And so it was the heart, good and bad of the heart. And this really touches on how to work with this feeling energy, which is that when that energy is agitated because we're restless, we're upset, then it gets us to do stupid things. And Bhim would do stupid things. We read of Choto Bhim, the cartoon character who is always causing trouble and getting in trouble because he's following his emotions. And his emotions are not under his control. But when he grows up and when his emotions are under his control, even as an adult, he would start doing crazy things. But when they are under control, he was the strongest. Strength comes from heart, it really does. The lungs are the heart. And when your lungs are strong and the heart is strong, even the body is very strong. And what does it take to turn that upwards? In Mahabharata, it took the elder brother, Yudhishthira, who was, according to Master and Swamiji, representing the throat chakra, which is calmness and dispassion. And so when you calm the agitated feelings of the heart and the emotions with calmness, dispassion, this is where Master said that intuition and really the experience of God in meditation, that perception comes from calm feeling awareness. And so this is the beauty of this path that they gave us, and even techniques. When our emotions are agitated, do more Hong Sa, calm agitated feelings, and start directing it upwards to God in meditation. And it starts with awareness of the feeling energy and working with that feeling energy. And so really, and again, there's 2 whole chapters in this book on Kriya Yoga about how to work with that energy. In some ways, I think learning how to work with that energy within ourselves is almost the do or not do breaking point on the spiritual path. Because if we ignore that energy, push it away, or think, I'm just a gyan and I don't have feeling, then what does feeling give us? It gives us yearning for God. It gives us passion to do the techniques, to have a daily meditation practice. Anyone who succeeds at anything has a lot of feeling energy in the form of enthusiasm, passion. They're avid about doing it. And so we need to actually awaken that feeling energy. But it can be challenging because as that energy is awakened, sometimes it's a bumpy road as it's awakened because we don't have control over it yet. And just like Bhim, you look at Bhim and he's his life is pretty bumpy. He has a lot of ups and downs because of the feeling energy when it's emotional. But he learns how to work with it using the help of his elder brother, Yudhishthira, and Hongsa. Yudhishthira was probably always telling Bhima, do more Hongsa, practice Hongsa, watch your breath, calm the feeling energy. And so learning to work with that energy is really, really, really important. And it starts with human emotion. And so understanding that taking this human love that we have and directing it towards God in meditation is really, the direction of the heart's energy determines whether we're going up or down. The heart is about halfway, on the spine, from the base of the spine to the spiritual eye. And a lot of the energy is there at all times. I mean, that's kind of the predominant vibrating energy point in most people. And so how we work with that energy, calming it, or enjoying the agitation of it, because let's face it, I think a lot of us have spent lifetimes enjoying the agitated feeling and getting all emotional and up and down. It's almost like a drug that you experience. And you see people who still are doing this. But then there's always the down. It's part of duality when it's just on an emotional level. As Nanda Moyima chided or advised Swami Kriyananda once, because she saw him in a state of upliftment and love and joy. And she said, be careful. She said that intense love you're feeling can go down the spine just as easily as it can go up the spine. And so I think this is why a lot of yogis start to shy away from the emotional energy, because they've seen it go up and down and up and down, and it's like, okay, I'm sick of this up and down, and I'm sick of the negative emotion of it and not controlling it. And so I think a lot of yogis kind of turn away from working with the feeling energy. Some indulge in that feeling energy because there is an enjoyment of being the lover of God and just having this emotional relationship with God. And it's a good thing because it is connecting to God on a heart level. But I think by the time many of us come here and learn Kriya Yoga and meditation, we've done that enough lifetimes where we realize, okay, there's more. I know there's more. There's got to be more. And we come to a guru, and we come to this line of gurus, and Master as a devotee of Divine Mother is showing us how to work, even with techniques. The way he put it one time, he said, make love to God through technique and bhakti, both combined together. And that is our path, is working with both of them together. And even using the techniques as even energization, pump it in, Divine Mother, as a way of really consciously tuning into God. So this is the path back to God, is learning to, one, calm that feeling energy. And as the chapter on the fire of devotion talks about in the Kriya Yoga book, we have to awaken that energy intensely in the beginning, because maybe it's gone to sleep. And we do want to really bring it up into fire, really in a dramatic way even. Yogananda talked about what he called straw fire devotion, which straw fire is if you just take a bunch of straw or newspaper and set it on fire. It's really dramatic. The flames go way up, and then they go way down, and then it goes completely out. And he called that sort of emotional kind of devotion, straw fire devotion. But in some ways, that's our starting point. And I share the story in the book of at Ananda village. Winters there are very cold. It snows during the winter, and it gets way below freezing. And so many of us over the years have had a wood stove to heat our house. We don't, not all the houses have electric or propane gas heat. And so we've all learned how to build a fire in a wood stove. And you have to start with the straw fire or the newspaper. And you put the newspaper in there, you put some twigs on top of it, and then you light the newspaper. And the flames go way up. But then if you just enjoy these flames, then it goes way down and disappears. And so what you do, you start putting bigger twigs on top of those flames, then you start putting some bigger sticks, then you start putting some big logs on top of those flames. And eventually, those initial intense showy flames of the newspaper burning It starts a whole fire that lights those logs and then has a fire that lasts throughout the night. And then you come, if you do it right, you'll sleep all night, you'll come in the morning, you'll open the wood stove, and there's a whole bed of red hot embers still in there. And then you just have to put some more branches on it, and then it comes back into flame. And so sometimes we need this straw fire devotion, emotional, just to get the energy going, just to light that longer lasting fire. And that's more of the human emotion. And this is where I would say that we don't want to suppress that when it comes, but we don't want to stop there. We want to use it to start lighting that fire. And then once that fire is lit, then the direction of that devotion is also really important. Because as I just said, that energy can go down the spine just as easily as it can go up the spine. And you'll see that when you start feeling that kind of awakened love, that, yeah, it can go both directions. And maybe we even enjoy those directions because it's more intense and there's an energy to it. And when you first come, in Ananda village, I came to Swami Kriyananda in 1977. And I saw this over the years at Ananda village, that because most of us were very young when we came, and that it was just very easy to fall in love with everybody. Swami Kriyananda once said that you could take two young new devotees, he said, put them on opposite ends of a football field and have them look into their eyes, each other's eyes, and they could fall in love. Just because that magnetism of love was so strong, and in a possibly outward way of magnetism. And again, nothing wrong with these things, but be aware that, yeah, it goes up and down. And this is why Swamiji said that when we practice meditation and we're practicing devotion, he said at a certain point you have to direct it to the spiritual eye. Almost austerely is the way he put it. And I share in the book that, we don't equate austerely with love and with devotion, but this is the ultimate direction of it. This is where the story of Ramakrishna that I think many of us know, his guru Totapuri. At a certain point, he saw that Ramakrishna was very advanced and he was having visions of Divine Mother as Kali, but he wasn't going beyond that even. And so he took a piece of ground up glass and rubbed it into his spiritual eye and said, focus here and go beyond the worship of form. And he did. He became one with Divine Mother in her infinite form. He still would have visions of Divine Mother as Kali, that didn't go away. But he also more had the much, much higher and expanded version that came from grounding a piece of glass into his spiritual eye, even on his skin. And so this is the balance of focus, concentration, discipline, devotion that the great saints and the masters had. Swamiji, in many ways, he was the most austere, disciplined person I have ever seen. Certainly he was. But he was also the most loving and devotional. And when the two are combined, and combined with energy and power, and that's kind of the key, and that's why I talked about that at the satsang, that power side needs to be introduced there also. And I think it's very important, and that's why I think people in Chandigarh, the home of Divine Mother as Shakti and power, have a better chance of understanding what divine love is, because divine love is extraordinarily powerful. It's not a sentiment. And this is the difference between a more sentimental relationship to God that's sort of low energy and very loving and good, so I'm not dismissing it. But when divine power is introduced into that, then it becomes divine love, which is all-powerful and really all-consuming in a way. And so these are our teachings in a way of how to work with devotion, how to work with the feeling energy, how to work with love for God. Now, another way of looking at it with the 8 aspects of God is to try at times to really consciously tune in to those aspects when we meditate. I mean, too often, people sort of space out during that time after the Kriya technique and other techniques. I think we're all guilty of this. We kind of wait for God to do something and hope for the best. And then our mind wanders and it's not a very active or dynamic time. And it's really important to really consciously try to invite God to come in a very real way. And this chant, "Come out of the darkness, Mother, bathe me in thy light," I find that very helpful as a visualization if I'm trying to tune in to Divine Mother as light. And I visualize myself, I'm sitting in meditation, but I visualize myself with my arms upraised, looking up, and offering myself up to Divine Mother, and feeling her light bathing me, and purifying me, and blessing me, and doing a meditation where that's what I'm doing during that meditation. And it becomes more than a visualization. It really becomes sort of a dynamic receptivity to that light. Because receptivity, again, too often becomes passive, where we're just kind of waiting for God to lay it on us and free me, and I'm ready, and I'll wait for you to come, and you sort of lie down in your lounge chair waiting for God to liberate you or come as a vision or as an experience. But real receptivity means dynamically offering ourselves up to that light and holding ourselves up in an uplifted way to that light and receiving it from that higher level. And it's kind of like meeting God halfway. We make the effort to go to that place of divine consciousness where God is, and as far as we can go, and invite God to enter us as light, as sound, as divine joy, as divine love. And again, I would just recommend tuning in consciously to these different aspects at times in meditation. Feel the love in the heart and consciously try to tune into it as a feeling energy in the heart, not just as a sentiment or a feeling or a thought, but as an energy, as a consciousness. And the same with divine joy and divine bliss, as just pure feeling in the heart rather than an idea or something that stimulates an idea or a thought or a way that we're used to working with devotion or joy or light. So practice meditation with Divine Mother, and again, use her as the window. You can look into her eyes of a murti or visualize her eyes, and then ask her. She wants us to go deeper, and she wants to help us to go deeper. And so just work with meditation in that way, work with prayer in that way. And so I just want to, for example, we think of Kali, and Master talked about Kali. That was the way he predominantly worshipped Divine Mother. But just the way he writes about Kali, and I think this is where he was coming from when he was no longer worshiping the Murti, but the cosmic Kali as the Divine Mother. And he writes, Kali represents Mother Nature. She is Om, the cosmic vibration. In Om, everything exists, all matter, all energy, and the thoughts of all conscious beings. Hence her garland of heads, to show that she is invisibly present in all minds. The play of life and death expresses her activity in nature, creation, preservation, and destruction. Hence, the sword, the head, and a third hand extended, bestowing life. Her energy is omnipresent, hence her streaming hair, representing energy. Shiva, her husband, represents God in his vibrationless state beyond creation. Thus, he is depicted as lying down, as supine. Kali's tongue is protruding not in bloodlust, as most people believe, but because in India, when a person makes a mistake, he sticks out his tongue. In the West, don't you express embarrassment somewhat similarly? You put your hands to your mouth. I love that because it says that Divine Mother realizes she really messed up and she went too far with this. In the story with Shiva, she went too far with destroying the demons and she couldn't stop. But I think it more represents that in creating all of us and creating this Maya, this delusion, oops, I went too far, and she wants to help us. She realizes, that's why I said, blame her for the whole mess and go to her and say, I want out, and she wants all of us to do that. Kali is depicted as dancing all over creation. This dance represents the movement of cosmic vibration in which all things exist. When Kali's foot touches the breast of the infinite, Shiva, however, she puts her tongue out as if to say, oh, I've gone too far, for at the touch of the infinite spirit, all vibration ceases. So at the touch of the infinite spirit, all vibration ceases. This is the calming of that wave of agitated energy and vibration and feeling, is when we go still in meditation and start directing the feeling energy upwards to God. Kali's fourth hand is raised in blessing on those who seek not her gifts, but liberation from the endless play of Maya or delusion. Those who feel themselves attracted to nature's outward manifestations must continue the endless round of life and death through incarnation after incarnation. And it can go on for a long time. It's probably scary how long. He says endless. It can go endlessly if you keep getting caught up in it. But as soon as we want out, she's there waiting to help us get out. I was talking to one of our monks yesterday because Nayaswami Shankara said, I think, that Swami Kriyananda told him once that it can take like 40 million lifetimes to get out. 40 million lifetimes. That's a lot of time. And I was starting to do the math on that. Just for rough numbers, let's say we live for 50 years on the average, 4 times 40 million times. Maybe we're in the astral plane for 200 years average, and these are very rough numbers. So that's 250 years times 40 million. You know how much that is? Can anybody tell me what number that is? 40 million times 250? Anybody quick with math? How many years?
10,000.
He's doing the math. I'll tell you, it's 1 billion years. So we could bounce around for 1 billion years. How far back is that? That's a long ways. Was that right? Is it 1 billion?
Wait, is it 200 times 40 million? 40 million?
Yeah, 250 times 40 million.
250. It's even more. I think 10 billion.
1 billion.
10 billion.
10 billion. Oh my God, that's even worse. Oh dear.
There's a lot of zeros. So I think
There's a lot. I think it hardly matters at this point. But what it says is that we've been around for a long time. And for people who are here now, we're really at the very, very end, maybe even the last lifetime. That's what Master promised us for Kriya Yogis. And take this opportunity to get out, because you can come close and then go back. I mean, it's possible, and I think really that most people have to go through that. Swami himself said that he had samadhi in a past lifetime, Sabhikalpa samadhi, and he fell, and many saints do, because the ego comes in. Oh, I'm one with God. And the emphasis on I am one with God rather than on God. And so just be careful and keep trying to find freedom, and again, pray to Divine Mother for that ultimate freedom more than anything. So incarnation after incarnation. But those devotees who deeply long for freedom from the cosmic play worship God in the indwelling self. Through meditation, they merge in the infinite Om. And from oneness with Om, they pass beyond creation to unite their consciousness with God, timeless, eternal bliss. And I think I'll read something that Master had a vision of Kali at an 8-hour meditation once. It was in 1936. It was right after he came back from his visit to India, back to America. And in the middle of that Christmas meditation, which I think was just maybe a couple months later, he had a vision of Kali, and he was describing what he was experiencing in that vision, and someone wrote it down. And I'll just read a paragraph from that. He talks at length to Kali, about Kali, to Divine Mother in this vision. Oh, what shining light glimmers in thy face, Mother Divine. Kali, Kali, thou art the only reality. All else is unreal. Life is a beautiful dream, O Mother, only when we are awake in thee. When we are asleep in thee, we dream the nightmare of mortality. Divine Mother, it is you who are causing this dream world. And Divine Mother, it is you who are behind my prayer for the liberation of all souls. It is you who are behind this endless love in my heart. Mother Kali, if it is thy pleasure to take me away, take me, for I have no attachment to this world. Kali divine, all faces are filled with thee, so I am attached to everyone, and I am attached to no one. Mother, I offer unto thee this fragrant bouquet of souls. Bless them all. And so you see the way Master wrote about Divine Mother was her cosmic infinite aspect. And yet, in order to go there, you have to go through the form and that worship. Master says that in the Christian church, in early Christianity especially, but even now to some extent, it's taught that in order to go to the Father, the Heavenly Father, you have to go through the Mother. And isn't that true? If you want something that maybe you're asking a lot, or maybe, when I was a child, and my brother, I was a twin growing up, and twin boys just cause all kinds of trouble because they can team up and do things that a single child cannot do. And we would, in the middle of the night, we would help each other climb up the furniture in our bedroom and on top of dressers and things, and our parents kept us in a crib. There's another set of twins here. I don't know if they ever experienced that, but they put us in a crib. A crib is like a prison with bars, do you have cribs like that? Or I think it was called a playpen. It was a playpen. So it was about this big with bars. But we figured out how one of us could lift the floor up of the base of it, and the other one could crawl under and get out, and then the other one. So we were able to make our escape because there was two of us. And so this is, I think, also how we all help each other escape, because this is one of the ways that I think Divine Mother set this up, is that she wanted her children to help each other get out. And it was really, it's a perfect setup. And it's just like a mother with children. She very much appreciates it when her children start helping each other. And if one of her child falls and gets hurt, it's very appreciated when another child picks that child up and helps it. And so this is part of our, not duty, but I think it's just the way of drawing divine grace, is when we help our brother and sister children get out of delusion. And I don't know that, well, you can't. Master said that in order to become liberated, you have to free 6 other souls, 6 or 7, 6 other souls. You have to help liberate 6 other souls in order to achieve final liberation. And this is a divine law. The divine law isn't just that. The divine law is that in order to grow spiritually, we also have to help each other. And we have to help other souls find freedom. And you'll find this is the power of Guru Seva more than anything, is that in any simple way, just by our own actions with our Guru Bhais, inspiring them just through our own devotion, through our own selflessness, through our example, that what happens is that over time, in little ways, we do help to uplift and free others by our own behavior and actions. It's not just someone teaching a class, it's all of us to some extent. And to the extent that we do that, we become more and more free. But if we hold it to ourselves, okay, I'm going to get liberated, I'm going to go off to the mountain and find a cave, and to heck with everybody else, they can find their own freedom. That's not the way to freedom, actually, because there's a high degree of self-involvement there. I'm only thinking of myself. And when there's self-involvement, there's contraction, there's delusion, there's the little self. When there is expansion of consciousness, expansion of our sympathies, our heart, the way that Divine Mother wants her children to do, then even in that moment, there is freedom, just in the simple act of helping others and serving others. Even in little ways, there are many people here who serve. others. Just even we do these phone calling campaigns, like we do for an event, whether it's a spiritual fair in Chandigarh or Ludhiana recently. We do these big phone calling campaigns where people call up those who have expressed interest in Ananda. And I can't tell you how effective that is. Why? Because someone's sitting at home, maybe struggling, and someone calls them, just selflessly wanting to help them. There's a spiritual event happening, come, you'll love it, and I've been involved in this, and this is really powerful, and it can change your life, and yeah, it helps free others, it helps to free us. This is kind of the example that Yogananda gave to all of his disciples, which is to have this attitude of wanting to help others. So any questions or anything that I can add? There is time for questions. How much time do we have here today? Till 1 o'clock, okay. Maybe I'll touch on one more thing, just about working with the feeling aspect.
So do think of questions.
Yeah. This quote is in the Kriya Yoga book also. And it's about working with feeling. Because again, yogis think that feeling is bad because they've experienced negative emotions and up and down. But Swamiji writes, the main, indeed, the only important thing on the spiritual path is to calm the emotions. Calm feeling is love, which unites the soul with God. Calm feeling is love, not suppressed or denied or get out of the way feeling. Calm feeling is love, which unites the soul with God. Restless or agitated feeling, on the other hand, are emotions, disrupt our vision, and prevent us from achieving full acceptance that in our true reality, we are manifestations of the eternal stillness of God. And Swamiji also writes that, he writes about chitta, which is the feeling energy. And we all know that Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, the second sutra is Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirod, which is that yoga is the neutralizing of the waves of feeling energy, the agitated feeling energy. And Swamiji says that chitta is also divine feeling, because when we merge back into God, it's through love and it's the experience of divine bliss. We are made of Satchidananda, and it's samadhi bliss. It's not samadhi light, it's not samadhi calmness. There is also an Om Samadhi that Master wrote about. But samadhi, union with God, is with God as divine bliss. And Swamiji writes that is chitta, God is chitta. Our own consciousness is feeling based. It's not thought based, it's not intellectual based, it's not an idea, it is feeling. We were created from divine feeling, and we go back and merge back into divine feeling coming from human chitta and agitated emotions. And this is why it's so important to understand that, in a way, all of delusion, all of our suffering comes down to chitta and to feeling. And our way out is learning how to work with chitta and working with that feeling energy. So it's the problem, it's also the solution. And so learning how to work with the heart's energies by working with awakening love for God, awakening devotion, learning how to make sure it doesn't descend into just human emotion and agitated feeling, learning to work with when feeling is agitated, working with techniques like Hong Sa. What does Hong Sa do? It calms the feeling, it calms the breathing, it calms the heart. The heart rate actually slows down. And what happens when we're really in a tizzy about something and we're all upset and emotional? The breathing gets really fast, it gets really jagged. I'm all upset, a child does that. The heart rate goes up. And so when we're upset, it's all to do with feeling. Even anxiety, we think it's all these, and I share this again in the book. People say, oh, it's all in the mind when we have fears and delusions, and it's not in the mind, it's in the heart. When it's in the heart, then it expresses as thoughts, as fears, as anger, but it starts in the heart, and it starts with the feeling energy. So this is where understanding how to work with turning human chitta into divine chitta and divine bliss, that's the spiritual path right there. It really is. You can almost condense it down to that. And that's why techniques, Kriya Yoga, Master Swamiji taught every Kriya should be an act of devotional self-offering. Why? Because it's taking our human yearning for freedom and to some extent our human love for God, and it's offering it up the spine and offering it up into the divine light, and it's transmuting and turning human feeling into divine feeling. Even Kriya, Swamiji once said at a Kriya initiation that you can see the Kriya technique as a tool for fanning the flames of devotion. And this is the devotion in our heart, which is there, even if we're not feeling it, if we're not aware of it. Maybe it's just when you come out in the morning, as I was talking about with the fire and the wood stove, you open the wood stove and you don't see the red embers because it's covered with a layer of ash. But you can feel the warmth. And if you blow on the ashes, you blow the ashes out of the way, and then you see those red embers there. And then you'll put some more twigs on there, for example, to get it going again. But they won't get going again until you start blowing on it again. And it's almost like magic. You start blowing on these embers, and these twigs are on top. And you blow and you blow, and you huff and you puff, and you blow hard enough, and all of a sudden, poof, it just bursts into flames again. And so that's kind of what Kriya does. It brings this divine energy up and down the spine. It's like the divine breath, huffing and puffing and blowing on those embers of the heart. And it really brings back into flames the heart's love, which is there, but dormant and fallen asleep. And so all of our techniques can be seen as ways of working with that feeling energy and awakening it and turning it into divine feeling. So any questions on how to work with that or other aspects of this?
My question is what do we do to practice attachment with detachment living in a family, especially as mother?
Yeah, that's a hard one. How to practice attachment with detachment in the physical family as a mother. And even Master, when his mother left the body, he wept. And he was grieving for a long time. And, as long as we have a human body, we have a human heart. And I'm not talking about just the physical heart. I'm talking about the human quality of heart. So that is there. I mean, it's like, it is so deeply ingrained, and it's how the species has survived because of human mothers with human hearts, watching over their children, protecting them with their own life, being attached to them and their survival. And how you work with that, it's a challenging one. And I think, the highest way, it's only a thought, and we know this, but it's try to see that, all children, Divine Mother is their real mother. I'm just the instrument for the love of Divine Mother in this life. So try to see your love more as a divine love and as an instrument, a vehicle for divine love. And it's easy to say, it's not easy to do. And I can't speak from experience, I know you can and all mothers can. It's very difficult to actually practice it when you see a child going into delusion and suffering. But even Master, when he would see a disciple who he was very close to straying, he would weep for that disciple leaving. Even when his disciple Gyanamata, who was all Gyan and beyond all this stuff, he wept when she left the body, and in a physical form she was there no more. Obviously he understood on a deeper way, but I think he was just showing to us that having that human love and having a human heart, don't try to say, okay, this isn't very spiritual, my love for my child. Well, it is, because God gave us that love. But try to always bring it up to a higher octave as often as you can, and as much as you can. Because then you can actually be much more effective as a mother over time. But again, it's more about, there's attachment there, and try to find a way of offering that up to Divine Mother and praying to Divine Mother to watch over and to help and to guide you in your own actions. And I think it's a process, just like all of this is that we're talking about. But yeah, it's a big challenge. But she created that delusion, and you can talk to her about how to figure it out, because she'll have the answer for you.
Yeah, I also have a question more as a mother. So
Yeah.
a mother is always caught between rules and feelings. Rules are, okay, no, this is acceptable, this is not, this is okay, this is not okay.
Yeah.
And feeling is, and love, one of the aspects of the Kali is also that you understand and then you give away. So how does the goddess deals with this? So on one side there are very rigid rules, and Master also in autobiography says that the rules of the nature exist regardless of whether you believe in them or not.
Yes.
And on the other hand, of course, Kali has a lot of feelings for us.
Yeah.
So how does she tackle this aspect of rules versus love?
Yeah, and it's not always verses. Sometimes it's both. Even certain rules, like Swamiji uses this example. If you touch a really hot stove, you're going to get burnt. And so, if a child is reaching out to touch a hot stove, you have a rule. You do not touch a hot stove, and you pull the hand away, even sort of forcefully, if you are afraid that the child is going to burn itself badly. Eventually the child learns, and maybe it does need to get burnt in order to really learn the lesson. And so there are rules of nature, and Divine Mother comes as discipline sometimes. And I think a good mother also works with that discipline, but from a loving perspective. But also just remember something Master said about organizations. And a family is an organization in a way. He said too many rules destroy the spirit. And so too many focus just on rules. It really kills the level of joy by just making it all about rules. And so I think wise mothers understand that it's intuition, and sometimes the child just needs to jump up and down. And sometimes it does need to be calmed down, and maybe when it gets older it can learn, but you just have to use your own intuitive judgment whether your rule making is causing the child to lose its joy and to suppress its own enthusiasm in many ways, or whether your guidance and rules is guiding that enthusiasm in the right direction. But this is the art of working with these things. It's not one or the other. They both overlap, and sometimes one is needed more than the other, and sometimes that is needed when a child is restless and jumping up and down. And so it's just, this is I think sometimes Divine Mother puts us in these roles just so we can learn. Because the answer to your question is going to be going through life, raising a child, and seeing how to work with these things, and learning and growing. And I think some parents are given very unruly children to learn acceptance and calmness and kindness, and to have patience. So yeah. Okay. Thank you for the lesson. And thank you, your daughter, for the lesson. Any other questions, comments, or anything you would like me to add, Bharat, Shamini, or anybody else?
Sometimes it seems that we are calling to Divine Mother for what it seems to us strongly, but yet we don't feel her presence.
Yeah, that's a good question. And Master's answer was keep calling, even whether God replies or not for eternity. Keep calling. And I think that attitude itself, if once we have that attitude, I'm going to keep calling morning, night, for the rest of my life, for all of eternity. And that's one of the challenges of meditation, is that we meditate to merge back into God. Every morning we go, okay, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to pray for divine union, and it doesn't happen. And we go back that night, and it doesn't happen. The next morning for 50 years, over and over again. But when you have that attitude of trust and unconditional love, Mother, I'm going to keep harassing you, bugging you, calling to you, praying to you, until you come, until you give me an answer. And it's like a child who just won't let her mother alone, ever, at all. Eventually the mother just has to say, okay, and takes the child up in her arms. And so pray for that attitude of never letting go and never stop calling. Once that attitude is there, it's almost like God is ours at that point, because Divine Mother is in our heart, calling nonstop for eternity. It's almost like that's the battle. It's not about having the vision of Divine Mother and coming. It's about having that attitude of heart, because sometimes people have a vision of Divine Mother and then they stray away and they go away. Better to have that intensity and determination. And sometimes I think we've had that experience in the past lifetime of having the vision of God and gone away from it. And I think maybe in this lifetime we have said, okay, don't come to me till the very end, because I need to learn that type of perseverance and unconditional loving that you have, where I love you unconditionally no matter what. And I find it helpful at times to sort of flip the script backwards and to meditate for some days or weeks where I'm not asking for Divine Mother or God to come or for anything, where I'm only giving to Divine Mother and just showing up. And even I think I share this experience in the book, where I was experiencing a chronic pain that was very debilitating and was causing me a lot of problems, where I couldn't even sit up sometimes and meditate. The pain would be so much that I'd be nauseous and dizzy, and so I couldn't even sit up and do Hong Sa or pray. And I was really sort of in despair, because I thought, well, gosh, what if the rest of my life is like this? It'd be, what am I going to do if it's like that? And so all I could do was lie down and pray to Divine Mother. And like Swami Kriyananda, when he taught us, when you're experiencing something that's hard, don't pray for yourself. Pray only either for strength or for equality. And so my prayer was, Divine Mother, I'm your child. You're a really pretty bad mother, because you put me in this situation and giving me so much pain, but I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to hold on to your feet. And it was maybe laying a guilt trip on Divine Mother, saying, I love you no matter how badly you abuse me and treat me. But for me, that was a way that helped me to make it more light. But it was also very serious. I didn't pray for myself. I love you no matter what. That's all I can do right now. I can't even sit up and meditate, but I can love you, and I can give to you, and I give my love to you, no matter what you give to me. And in that moment, there was freedom in that moment, in that idea where I can give to you, and it doesn't matter what you give to me. I can give my love to you. And there was so much freedom in that moment and in that prayer, that there was a great joy that the pain went into the background. And the problem was still there, but I think that was the beginning of the healing of that physical condition. But it was from surrender and giving rather than asking. So it's good to experiment at times with just giving. It's also good to ask. And Master said that, but try to just have a deep experience of the one, because we're not used to that, of just the giving part. And try to go deep into that practice for a while as a way of really understanding the power and the freedom of it. Because I think when we have that unconditional love for God, that's what God's love is. It's unconditional. And when we can have that and give that to God, we have God. We have God's love. And there is freedom even in that, more than in a vision of Divine Mother or of God. So.
Have one or two more questions?
Yeah, I can say one more.
Yeah.
Is there like a passion point maybe, like where you can take it too far, like, Divine Mother gave me a parking spot kind of, and people can start suddenly making
Yeah, so she's asking, can we take it too far with asking trivial things? Divine Mother, give me a parking place. I'm desperate, I'm late, I need a parking place. And yeah, I wouldn't trivialize it. And Swamiji said about the Guru, and Swamiji said this, he kind of got ticked off when people would say, oh, Master gave me a new apartment and he gave me this and that. And he said, the Guru didn't come to give us stuff especially. He came to give us freedom. And if you think he's coming here to give us stuff, he will. Things will happen and grace will come. But to bring it down to that level, then the Guru maybe will relate to us on that level. And he would get a little ticked off when he heard people relating to the Guru. And I share this story here sometimes where this idea of people often say, oh, Divine Mother gave me a parking place. And, we should take whatever Divine Mother gives us, everything she gives us, everything that comes to us is from her hand. And so if we only say the good stuff, oh, Divine Mother gave me a parking place, then we're not really getting the whole picture. Because sometimes what she gives is not outwardly good, but is for our own best good, because it's helping us to find freedom, even though it seems like it's bad karma. And I shared this at a satsang at Ananda village one time, where I said, I hear people saying, Divine Mother gave me a parking place. And I said, but I've never ever heard anybody say, Divine Mother gave me a parking ticket. And it's the good stuff. And I was pleased that week. I was working in the Kriya office, Sangha office there at Ananda village. And there was a friend, Dambara was his name, from Ananda Palo Alto. And I picked up my voicemail messages. And he had left a message all the way from Palo Alto. He said, Devarshi, I'm so excited. You wouldn't believe what happened. I went out and did some errands. I came back to my car, and Divine Mother gave me a parking ticket. He was so excited. Because it wasn't just the excitement of that story which he had heard. It was that he was able to realize a divine truth and to see the hand of Divine Mother. Just like, that chronic pain that I had, that was Divine Mother giving me a parking ticket for a reason, because she wanted to teach me a lesson that I could not learn any other way, which was to turn completely to her in complete surrender and giving. And that lesson that she forced me into, she gave me no other way out. It was like she blocked all the entrances, all the doors, all the windows. And the only way out, which it took me time to figure, was to give myself completely, unconditionally at her feet. And so that was a great blessing. She gave me that pain, that suffering, to help me to really take a deep, wonderful step of spiritual growth. And so if we can see her hand behind everything that comes to us, we also start to see the door out and what she is trying to give us. And if we can try to have that understanding and not trivialize it. Yeah, if we get a parking place, it's fine to say she gave me a parking place, but also say she gave me a parking ticket. Both are fine. But if it's just one, if it's just the good stuff, then maybe, she won't try to help us in the ways that are more serious and maybe are not outwardly good.
Yes. Two questions.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it's the same thing. If you have a bad day and you can't get out of bed and all that, what do you do?
Yeah, we have to try to understand why and ask her, okay, what are you trying to teach me here? Because when the mother scolds a child, maybe the child doesn't understand why the mother grabbed its hand off of that hot stove. It thinks the mother was being mean to do that. So we need to also just ask Divine Mother, okay, why did that happen, and what are you trying to show me here? Yeah.
I have a question from the book.
Uh-huh.
It's page number 134.
Mm.
It says, Paramhansa Yogananda advised people not to talk to others about their spiritual experiences.
Yeah.
So I think the book itself is your experience.
It is, and that's actually a really good question. And there were a lot of experiences in that book that have not shared before. I was very hesitant to share. And there's two reasons why Master said not to talk about spiritual experiences. One is that he said that when you share an experience, it loses some of its power. If you share it too casually, oh, I had a vision of God, and you tell it to all your friends, and it loses some of the inner power and the meaning. The other reason, which is unrelated to your question, but I just want to touch on, is that when people talk about their experiences, especially people like us, it gives the impression that it's all about experiences. And other people who don't have experiences think, well, gosh, I'm not having those experiences, so I must not be very spiritually advanced. So in my role, because I've learned from Swami Kriyananda, he would share experiences of his own life. And he wouldn't share visions or anything like that, which I wouldn't share that. But lessons learned from experiences that God has given me, I saw that he would share those as a way of helping people if they could help people. He also was free of the ego of, well, look at this experience. And that's a subtle thing, that not everybody has that inner freedom where they're not touched by sharing an experience and hearing how other people are impressed with them. He would share as a way of helping others and teaching them. And so with some of the things that I shared in that book, I thought, okay, when I'm dead and gone, would I wish that lesson was shared in that book? And I thought, yeah, I do want that lesson to be in there when I'm dead and gone so that people can learn from it. And so I shared it in that way. And I tend not, my own nature is not to share that way. And I would say, err on the side of not sharing, but, if you're trying to help a friend and they're going through a test, like the one I just shared about experiencing chronic pain, and you can help them through an experience that you had, then yeah, to quietly and humbly share that experience as a way of helping them is good. But I think it was just not overly talking about experiences as, quote, experiences is what Master was especially talking about. But as with all rules, there are exceptions. And our part is to really try to tune in deeply, okay, what does Divine Mother want me to do here? And I felt that Master, our Guru, Swamiji, were wanting me to share that book the way that I did. And it took me a long time to write that book, to try to figure out how to write it and what to say. But when I finally understood what they wanted me to do, that's when and why I shared so openly. And some friends also advised me to share in that way. But it's a good question. Okay.
I'd like to.
Okay.
So, is it okay to share your experiences, with your somebody who understands this, or your children, like my daughter? That's okay. If I've experienced something, to tell it to her, because it seems like it's a lot of guidance sometimes.
Yeah.
For the family or for your children. So is that okay?
Yeah. If you feel that you can help a person by sharing an experience, which is where I was coming from, then yes. But I would just always be careful not to just talk too loudly and openly with people who wouldn't understand, because that's another danger of too openly sharing experiences, that you share it with someone who's skeptical and not ready to hear it, and they'll sort of belittle the experience, even subtly, and kind of, try to harm the experience. And that's not helpful to us when we share something that's really precious and it's demeaned by someone who is a little bit skeptical or cynical. So I just say be careful, be wise, and yeah, in the way that you're talking about it sounds good.
If you see the masters or God in your dreams, what did Kriyananda ji say or Paramhansa Yogananda say? That is it actually a divine experience or is just a dream?
It can be either. Swamiji said that one test of a, quote, experience like those is if it changes your life, it's a true superconscious experience. But sometimes they can come in subtle ways, even in a subconscious dream, they can come and bless us and help us. But Swamiji would say, don't make a huge deal out of experiences. Yeah, they do come to try to help us through a test, through a karma. I always share this, where there was a disciple of Master who had this huge samadhi, cosmic astral vision experience, and he was Swamiji's brother disciple, and he shared that experience with Swamiji and with Master, and Master said it was a true vision. And Swamiji sort of grumbled, oh gosh, I never have experiences like that at that time. And that man left Master 1 week later after that experience. So experiences are not always what we might think. Sometimes they're just sent to help us through a test or a challenge. And just use wisdom and caution, I guess, and not rigidity in sharing those things. And again, that's where I was at with how I wrote that book, because it could help others. And so if it can help someone, and you'll learn from it, from sharing that way, whether it was the right thing or not. And if we overshare, yeah, then we learn the mistake at some point. And yeah, just be aware, and it's a subtle thing. It's not black and white in the end.